guys already know it's Wednesday. There's been some news from our beloved. They've been in the news. They find ways, and it's because of some of these former great teams that always stay relevant in basketball conversation. Hopefully, this current attempt that the organization is going through right now to restructure their front office can give us some more storied moments in Detroit Pistons history. But first, let's welcome back the legend with the drum roll. You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's rock. Hey, yo! Shout out and welcome to the legend Detroit News Rod Beard. Brother, you already know we need Rod's thoughts to kick this thing off.
People have been asking me, when I said it's been a week, this is what I meant. Just people around just to stop you and ask you, hey, what do you think about the front office moves? And it is, you don't know. I mean, my entire week has been like, I don't know.
Right.
I can't say, is Trajan Langdon what Troy Weaver was when they hired Troy Weaver? Just highly acclaimed, and he's going to bring the goods. And I don't know.
Yeah,
you just
they're saying
don't
the same stuff,
right? It's the same kind of background. And I'll say this: you can't say whether the things that were done, the good things that were done in their previous stops, were because of them, or because they were there in the room. And so it's was it Sam Presti pulling all the strings and doing all of that? From what we kind of know about Troy, we knew he was the talent evaluator. He may not have been the one who called all of the shots in those cases. We know how he felt about Russ. We know how he felt about some of those high-level players there.
Steven Adams.
Yeah. Do we know that Trajan Langdon is the key behind all of this stuff that we've seen in New Orleans and Brooklyn? He's bringing that with him. We don't know. I can't say for sure whether he's that guy or he was in the room and he was just around it. And there's a big difference in those two things. When you're around something and you're doing something, you're making the call and saying, I'm putting my reputation and staking it on this thing. It's a big difference. So my thought is just, I don't know. I can't say, and I don't want to get into the show me every draft pick the Pelicans did, or every guy that the Nets picked while they were there. I don't want to do that. Tell me that Trajan Langdon stood on the table and said Russell Westbrook is going to be an all-star and we need to pick him over all of these other guys, and get that right. You tell me that and I can believe a little bit more. So that's just kind of where I am on the whole thing. Is just, I don't know if this is a great hire. I know it's a change, and he's going to bring in a whole new front office. Is he going to bring a new coach with him? I don't know. It's so much still to be figured out, and people are just really the Pistons are a topic of conversation, obviously, in this city. But I don't have answers. I can't tell you anything more than that.
Yeah, you know what? And you said it right. With my time on the beat, this is the second kind of front office change now that I'm going to go through. And it is different for me this time around versus with the Troy Weaver. When Troy Weaver was hired, all the same things were being said. All of the big accounts, from the Wojs to NBA players, former NBA players, they were all saying, yo, this is a good hire for the Detroit Pistons. Same thing that they're saying about Trajan Langdon this time around. But this time for me, it is more of a wait and see approach. You know, one of my questions that I want to be able to ask whenever the press conference is announced is, what is the sense of urgency? What is the expectation? You know, is this something that you see as, urgent? We need to turn this thing around in the next season or two, especially given the perspective of the fans? Or are you coming in believing as a new hire with a new front office that you should be able to get the time to really implement what you want? And that might take, like Troy Weaver said, 3, 4, 5 seasons. It's going to be interesting. Bro.
let me tell you what's going to be in the comments before it gets in the comments. There is no time. You can't wait that long, because the fans are going to say, we want to win now. They're not going to be on the patient, we need 4 or 5 years, because which is a completely false thought. Let me say that. When you look at this roster, is this a competitive roster in the Eastern Conference? Is this a top I mean, is this a playoff team or a play-in team in the Eastern Conference? Is it a top 10 Eastern Conference team right now? No.
Not at all.
No. And how long
Sadly.
is it going to take to get there? And you're back in the same thing that Troy did when Troy got here, is you have to just pull all of the weeds out of this roster and say, what pieces can I keep? And how much are they going to cost? And what can I go get? This is you bought a new house and it's not quite what you wanted to, but now you've got to go and fix. Well, we're going to paint in here. We're going to change this. We're going to do that. It's a lot of stuff. And it's the same decisions. Do we have to tear it down to the studs? How much of it can we keep? How much of it has to be significantly altered? These are the same types of things that I don't think Troy's decision was about a coach. This is something that Trajan Langdon is going to have to figure out, is whether he wants to just change this entire thing. And fans have to realize, if you're starting from scratch again,
it could take
possibly with a new coach, you're talking at least 4 or 5 years. Some teams have figured it out. In all honesty and reality, teams have figured it out in 3 or 2. But that's the anomaly. So don't come into this expecting to say the Pistons are, even with Cade, and even if they go and get some all-star and blah, 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 this is a 2-year turnaround. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. It's just not going to be that. It is not that at all. There aren't enough pieces on this roster to even have me sit here and tell you that this is a 2-year turnaround. This feels like a 3, 4, 5 at least.
Yep, it had the promise at one point in time, but you're looking at some of these other young players that are in the same draft class as some of our guys, and they're a little bit more ahead of the curve. They're playing in situations that our young players could only dream about at this point in time. And, you know, we have a couple questions from the rest of the crew, but I wanted to be able to at least drop the news. And before we close out the segment, too, going to have to get your takes on the 2004 Detroit Pistons versus 2017 Golden State Warriors debate. But J.R. Holden has been hired into the Detroit Pistons front office. His position has not yet been announced yet, or at least there's nothing on social media or LinkedIn that's showing us exactly what he's going to be here as. But his prior history has been as a scout, and he also spent some time here with the Pistons as college and international scout as well. Back in 2014 to 2018, spent some time with the Detroit Pistons. Also has been with the Philadelphia 76ers as well as the Brooklyn Nets. And the other hire that's been made known via X and LinkedIn is Michael Blackstone as the Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Detroit Pistons, working directly beneath Trajan Langdon in that hierarchy. But I know, KG, you had a question as well?
Yeah, and you brought up Monty. Of course, we don't know what they'll do in regards to Monty Williams, because if they were to get rid of him, Tom Gores probably has to eat around $60 million. But if you're Trajan Langdon, and tell me about it. But if you're Trajan Langdon and making this decision, do you hold on to Monty? Because I think that's a big key as to how this thing will look going forward. Would you hang on to Monty, or would you just cut your losses, eat the $60 million, and try to find a new coach, if it were you?
I will go with my familiar script in any of these. Should we get a new coach, tell me who you're going to get. Tell me who you're going to get. Because Monty was we need the best coach available at the time. And you went and got the best coach available. And that's one of those, hey, he's a great coach of young players. The players are all excited to play for him, bloop, bloop, bloop. And we see what happened. Yeah. I don't know what to believe anymore, because I had players tell me they were excited. They were hype about, and it was no shade against Dwayne Casey at all, but they were excited to play for Monty because he was a player's coach. And you just didn't see that translate on the court one bit at all. Go ahead, jump in.
No, I was going to say Matthew Kruger in the chat, actually, the only name that's come to mind to me, and I got his picture up on the wall signed for when he broke the franchise's single game scoring record. And that is Jerry Stackhouse. You already know, right? Hell no. He says, what about Jerry Stackhouse as a potential coach candidate for the Detroit Pistons? He was a hot name before.
What about Chauncey Billups? I mean, if we're just throwing stuff out here, what about Chauncey Billups? What about any of this?
That's right.
I mean, it's I got nothing. Are you excited if I tell you Jerry Stackhouse? Are you?
No,
does that get you hyped and say what's
I
his
love
connection?
Stackhouse, but I'm not like, yeah, that's the pick right there. That's the coaching hire that's going to take us over the top. Are we going to hope for the best? Probably, but yeah.
I mean, it's really. This is about fit, and this is about getting everything right, because we've been through this. We've seen this movie, and we know, hey, new front office. Hey, maybe there's a new coach somewhere in here. Hey, we're going to go and try to revamp the roster. We've seen all of this
so
before,
many times,
and there's no guarantees in this that it's going to turn out right. It's as a journalist, a lot of this stuff is just cyclical. And you see a new coach, you see a new front office, you see a whatever, and okay, like, what's different with this one? Fans are very much the same way. We're just a little bit more connected to it because we see it every day and we're closer and we're directly plugged into it. But what's different about this? Okay, Stackhouse. If you're just going to tell me you want former Pistons coaches, then yeah, put Chauncey's name in there, put Isaiah's name in there, put Lambier's name in. If we're just doing it because they're former Pistons or have some connection to it, then just put anybody's name in it. This has
Michael
to be
Curry's
done
name in there.
Right, but it has to be done in a different way. This whole thing just needs to be completely reconstructed with a different vision of what this looks like.
Speaking of reconstructing the Pistons and the front office, I personally believe, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm going to choose my words carefully, that
Here we go.
Right.
Because we all know in New Orleans that, it could have been David Griffin more running the show, or we don't know for sure what Trajan Langdon's actual role is. But with what was done with Trajan Langdon as the general manager, his resume, and I say that with a potential caveat, his resume to me had less blemishes than Troy Weaver's, Monty Williams, and Dwayne Casey's. And that makes me a little bit more hopeful. Am I naive or no?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
Great analysis.
No. Okay. So let me go by this. What was Dwayne Casey's resume coming in here? He won a championship. He had won a championship with Dallas as an assistant coach. Was that all him? It's the same sort of idea. As an assistant coach, is how much input or how much did you have in that? He had some. As an assistant coach, you know that you have some direct input and push into what happens. So it's always hard to say with those things. Dwayne Casey had done so well in Toronto. He was a coach of the year coming in, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. You can have really good credentials and you end up in a situation that just it's hard to win. You play a game that you can't always win, even if you have the credentials, the background, everything else is there. There are all-star players who come here. Blake Griffin came here and couldn't win. So sometimes it's not the person or what they bring into it. It's just the situation is a bad mix of everything. The front office might not be what you want. The players and roster may not be what you want. The cap may not be. These are all good guys who have good basketball acumen and know what they're doing. Sometimes you just don't. I mean, the Phoenix Suns, very good team. They just didn't win the championship this year. And so all of these people that I'm talking about are very decorated, very accomplished people. And sometimes it just doesn't work for no particular reason, nothing bad they did. It just doesn't work out. And so I don't want to say that any of the stuff is bad. It's just only one team wins. And sometimes the construction of what you're doing just isn't conducive to that person winning or that group of people winning.
No, and that's fair. And I'll use Monty Williams as a quick example.
Sure.
With what he did last year as a coach, I don't think anybody would say that was a success or a good job. I would say in New Orleans, he was kind of average. 5 seasons, 3 seasons, no playoffs, 2 seasons with a first-round exit. And I think you could argue, because you've seen it throughout this player's track record, that their turnaround with the Phoenix Suns, although they had that winning streak in the bubble without him, was more about Chris Paul than Monty Williams. You look at Chris Paul's history. New Orleans, his rookie year, they have 20 more wins. You see what happens when you add him to the Clippers. They go from being an exciting team to a playoff team. How he was able to stabilize OKC after they after Russell Westbrook and Paul George left, and him and SGA kept them afloat. Even Houston, he kind of raised their ceiling from a 55-win team to a number 1 seed 65-win team. I think that Monty Williams, my point is that Monty Williams may not have been that great coach that we all thought that he was, even though he had led the Phoenix Suns to a championship. There was some caveats to it.
And I agree with you on that. Sometimes the credentials puff you up to be a little bit more than what you are. And again, and that's the whole point in all of this. You got to sit down and prove it. You got to land in Detroit and say, I'm going to make a change here, and this is going to happen. And a lot of these previous coaches and front offices have not been able to do that for whatever reason. So I think that's the challenge, is looking at what can Monty do? What's going to be different? From a coaching standpoint, it's a lot more difficult because you can only deal with the roster that you have. Is Trajan Langdon going to come in and flip this thing and trade for 5 centers at the opening of free agency, and people go bananas over that, and really change this roster quickly to make something different for Monty? That's just going to have to be something we figure out. Is that going to be the draft pick? He's got to have some plans in place to do things quickly, because I think the expectation and the fans' attention is short. That it's like, okay, bro, you got the job. You better start doing something really quick because you only have our attention for so long.
You know what? And that's the nuance and the caveat right there when you talk about building this team the right way. What way is that? Is that according to Trajan Langdon's vision, or are we reset right back to where Troy Weaver was audibly last year, as well as Monty Williams saying, hey, you know what? We had to push pause on free agency because we just hired a guy who doesn't quite fit the talent that we have here in the direction that we were going. And then at the start of training camp, you have Monty Williams saying, hey, I'm not used to coaching this type of team. And clearly, with the way that he managed, or what some people would say mismanaged, some of the young talent like a Jaden Ivey, there's a lot of people who wonder, all right, what is this roster going to have to be able to get the best out of Monty Williams as well? This is going to be a very interesting dynamic, because just changing out the front office doesn't resolve all of the issues from last year. Some of those issues did come from a position of the coach and the talent might not necessarily being as cohesive as you would like, though I did get a sense of being a very, very kind of teacher type coach from Monty Williams, just kind of being around him at the press conferences and being at some of the practices and such. And so maybe there's some growth on his behalf, as well as the team being able to catch up to where he's at. But it's going to be interesting to see what Trajan Langdon does, because as a PBO, you would think he would want to put his imprint and his stamp on this squad and on how this team handles his basketball business, his operations. But you got a coach and Monty Williams, who the owner personally went and got and paid to be, at the time, the highest paid coach in the NBA. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how they move this thing forward.
Right. And I don't want to see Trajan Langdon try to win the press conference with some splashy phrase or whatever else. I don't want to see that. I want to see him come in and lay out at least part of a plan that just says, here's how we want to be. And I get for Troy Weaver's rebuild and restoration thing, it did tell you what the theme was and what we were going after. I don't think Trajan Langdon is the same type of dude. I think he's a more, if you can be quieter than Troy Weaver, I think that's Trajan Langdon. And I think it just, hey, we want to be better. We want to bring back the winning atmosphere. And those are some of the things that Troy Weaver said too. But I think Trajan Langdon can be his own person and just kind of lay out what his plan is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I saw Josh Eberle on X getting things a little riled up as well. He had this crazy hypothetical where the Detroit Pistons receive 2 players that we've talked about all season, Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine, but they're giving up to the Bulls, Jaden Ivey, and a 2029 top 10 protected pick. And then the Pelicans get this year's number 5, a 2027 top 3 protected pick, Marcus Sasser and Evan Fournier. And to me, when I saw that, is where it
done deal for you. Wait, who do we need to call? Who do we need to call? Wait, hey, done
deal.
Done.
That's where it brought to mind what is going to be the strategy and the sense of urgency, because you're instantly getting some buckets next to K.
Hey, where is that? Bro, do you know how quickly? Hey, Somebody who has Trajan Langdon? Done. Has this dude been listening to the pod? Has he been listening to the pod? Because like seriously,
these have been the players.
Man,
these have been the ones all year.
I would do this today.
Today.
Yeah. Yes.
Today, son. Yeah. Just let's go.
Yeah, you can't even think about what you think you're losing for the future. We've seen this. You're telling me you can get me those two guys and you keep Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson? Done deal.
Yep.
Done deal.
Do you understand? I don't even care about the cap implications of this. I don't care about any of these draft picks. This 2029 pick is in like 7th grade right now. I don't even 7th or 8th grade. That dude is
it's real, man. It's real.
Done deal.
Do you know how quickly I would do this deal? This thing would be done.
It would look like a Lions war room, man. Like their draft war where they're going crazy and high-fiving and everything.
How many years does Zach LaVine have left on his contract? I don't care. Bring me this. Bring me this trade. Man, dude, hot.
Hey, you know what? I can't wait to see what the chat family is going to say. I know when this gets over to Woodward Pistons, it's going to go crazy. And just last thing before we let you go, 2004 Detroit Pistons, 2017 Golden State Warriors. Do you think those going-to-work Pistons will hold their own?
Man, do you know what those Pistons would do to Golden State?
Talk about it. Talk about it. Man, talk about it.
They would score, like Golden State would score 81 points and feel like they had accomplished something. Like, okay, yeah, you hit 27 threes, but like they weren't. Okay, you got to tell me which period. Are we playing in? Are we teleporting back to 2004? Or are we moving and we playing in 2017? Because if we're playing with 2004 rules, Golden State is scoring 75 to 81 points. They're going to have to hit 27 3. They're going to hit 20.
Look at Sam.
Oh, no.
Run.
Flannel was getting going, too. Please come back.
It's all right. It's all right.
Oh,
Sam,
man.
what did you do?
There we go.
The only way they get to 81 points is 27 free throws or 27 3-pointers, no free throws, no 2-pointers at all. That is the only way because they're not getting in the paint. And if they get in the paint, they're not getting in the paint again because oh my goodness. Yeah, no. That is an 87-81 game one. And then Golden State just kind of concedes the rest of the series. That is, oh my goodness.
Let's go. I like that analysis. That's wise analysis from the legend Detroit News out here.
That's
my question.
Nobody.
Who's guarding Sheed? Who's guarding Sheed? Sheed's guarding KD.
Oh my God! So somebody can guard KD, but not Sheed. Come on.
Let's rock.
I love that team.
Is KD guarding Sheed? Okay,
no.
Even better. Tayshaun is guarding Sheed.
Yeah.
Or Tayshaun is guarding KD.
7'2" wingspan, 4-time All-NBA defense.
They're the same. They're the same cat. Tayshaun might weigh more than KD. I don't know that offhand, but he might weigh more.
That's the truth.
See, Rod, and I know we got to get to break. You went a little bit too far because there's people that are for the Warriors that'll say like, oh, they're just gonna shoot 35 threes on 60%, and the Pistons we're not gonna know what hit them. I think that's too far. But also saying that the Warriors will score 81, I think that's a little too far the other way. This is KD, Steph, and Clay. This to me is the best team in NBA history, in my opinion. This isn't 2016. This isn't 2015. This is the most this was a cheat code. This was a cheat code at the time. 2017 was a cheat code.
Are you telling me Draymond is guarding Sheed?
Draymond will hold his own to some degree. To some degree, he's going to bother him a little bit.
Nope.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Draymond said it best. Nope.
Draymond getting teed up in the first game. What are we talking about?
Yeah, getting frustrated trying to defend Rasheed.
Draymond better go try to guard Ben because no, he is not guarding Sheed. It will be chicken cacciatore in the paint every single time.
Damn. Well, nobody has to guard Ben.
Oh my God! Oh my God! All right.
I'm so glad we got that question.
Nothing else needs to be said.
You know what?
Drop the
Shout
mic.
out to the legend,
Shout out.
Detroit News, Rob Beard, sports editor-in-chief at the Detroit News. Definitely tap in with them. They do great work, great people. Love all of the interaction. They treat me well in that media room too, man. Your guys, it's awesome time all the time. Thank you, Rob Beard, as always.
Guys, appreciate it. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too,
man. Blessings, brother. Oh, man.
Chicken
segment.
cacciatore.
Right.
Damn.
What? What a segment, man. Rod is electric
man.
every single time, man. Awesome. And great questions from you guys as well.
Here's the question to
Chat
all
family
you
was
guys.
tuned in.
Go ahead, Sam.
With the 04 Pistons, they'd obviously beat the Dream Team and the Redeem Team. The best of the Dream Team and the Redeem Team,
All
right?
right, what we got?
Of course, they beat the Dream Team because there was no Isaiah Thomas on it.
The 04 team, they would beat a team with the starting lineup of Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, and Kareem, right?
If there's no Zeke.
Now Zeke's better than Magic
Now
Johnson.
more
Come
than
on
ever, it is critical for you to have your insurance review.
We gonna kill Sam. Up here.